Alright, welcome back to another filler video. Wait, that's not right. Hang on. There we go. Hey, welcome back. Another behind the scenes thing. It's been a while since I've done one of these. So you all know Monster Mask. You probably subscribed because of it. You're probably waiting for part 2 or something. That's not gonna happen anytime soon, I'm sorry. Love it or hate it, you know that this project took a lot of time and a lot of money that I had to manifest out of the ether to be able to afford this whole production. And with every production comes extras. The first thing that I have here for you is a 20-minute clip of me deep diving into a scene I was working on for Monster Mask. It was originally a Patreon exclusive, but now that the Patreon is down, I'm just gonna put it out there. To those who are not really interested in how the sausage is made, just jump to this timestamp right here, because it's just a lot of me rambling about cell action 2D and how I managed to make it work. Again, I'm not 100% sure this is how they do it over at Ludo, but I think I'm kind of close. Enjoy. Alright, hello everyone. Welcome to the Patreon exclusive behind the scenes. I wanted to do this for a while, you know, go a bit more in depth to, you know, the creation of Monster Mask, one of my more ambitious projects. And to figure what better than to just open up one of the projects while I still have cell action at my access, and you know, give a quick a quick behind the scenes of like one of the more advanced shots that I had to animate. So here is the shot 9 where you know, Jay got his mask back, and you know, the healers say see you later mate, and you know, just go off. This was actually the first shot that I've animated from Monster Mask, and honestly, probably the hardest. It was so intimidating that I actually had to like stop for a little bit. I just when I first opened this scene, it was just these 5 standing, you know, blank faced, and I've made a post on this on Twitter before, or rather X, if you're you know, one of Elon's lackeys. But I made a post saying like, you know, all right, the rigs are done, let's start animating. Why am I scared? And you know, it was terrifying because mainly this is like my first big scene that I've made in cell action, and even though I made all the rigs and I know how it all works and how all that stuff, I wasn't like 100% sure on like how to proficiently animate. And I should probably quiet down Discord, should I? Yeah. You think I learned my lesson after jam session? All right. So actually, I think it's good. So yeah, this scene was honestly very scary to approach, because I tend to work with like the hardest scenes first and then work my way to the easier ones. It helps like build up speed. You know, you start slow, and then you kind of just get faster and faster and faster. And I figured the best way to do that is to do the hard stuff first and then the easy stuff last, which helps keep that momentum going. You have less resistance when you're proceeding forward. All right, I'm just rambling at this point. Let's actually get into this. So here I have like the whole finished scene. A thing about cell action is the whole thing won't play out proficiently when it's like rendered like this. So you see, it's pretty much very slow. So instead, we're gonna like pixelate it. Actually, that won't do much. Let's just oh, ooh, where'd they go? They're ghosts now. There, it's a whole wireframe. Yeah, this is wireframe mode. This is where people usually would animate and, you know, get more real-time response, like real-time animation. It looks weird, but trust, it's supposed to look like that. So I guess I can spare a minute to like actually have this whole thing play out. So with animated, it's actually animated like character by character. So the first character I animated for this is you know, as you can clearly tell, Chili. Chili was a I guess like the starting point for like how like it gives me an idea of like how all this is gonna like go. how to like flip the characters over, how to like how the tail sways and like turns and whatnot. And it it wasn't too hard. I mean, it kind of was. It was a challenge, but the more I did it, the more I actually managed to get a feel for it. And thankfully, I didn't have to do much lip sync. Most of the lip sync in this is pretty much just open and close, smile and frown, to then the end. But that's what the subtitles are for. And yeah, Chili was like, just okay, come on, kids, and then just walks off screen. Then Bandit pretty much. So one thing about animating, one character after another, is the eye movements. So when Chili does her action, Bandit like responds by not Bandit responds, like reacts by looking at her. And then looks at me saying, "See you around, mate." Well, I just admitted that Jason's self-insert. There we go. I mean, it was obvious. Come on. But yeah. So yeah, Bandit wasn't too hard, honestly. It's pretty much the same thing I've done with Chili, but just a bit more comfortable doing it. And same thing goes with like Bingo afterwards. So pretty much Bingo follows suit. So it's kind of like a hierarchy thing. So Chiri, sorry. Chili says something, then Bandit looks, then Bingo, then Bluey, then Jay. It kind of just like flows. I actually learned that from a Muffin Cone. When Trixie takes off Muffin's cone, like at least temporarily, Trixie looks at Muffin like, oh look, she's sucking her thumb, and then it kind of just leads to I think Chili looking at Muffin, then Bluey, then Bingo, like sort of like a flow, kind of like Trixie, Chili, Bluey, and Bingo, and then just all of them say Muffin. And yeah, it's kind of like where I drive this kind of flow of like response. And actually, now let's go on to Bingo now. Actually, Bingo is an interesting case because like it's pretty simple. She looks, she turns, and then she walks off. But then you actually notice she waves too. Now, if you know cell action, then you're probably a Bluey animator, and I welcome. I'm not sure what you're doing here. I'm not sure why you paid. I'm a waste of your time. But thing about cell action is like the walk cycles can be like an action. So an action is pretty much like a saved animation that you can just paste whenever you need it. And with these actions, like these are like pose to pose, and then I kind of just transition into a walk cycle for these characters. And one thing I do like about selection is that you can like paste other animations on top of animations, provided like they're not actually animated yet. Like say the for Bingo here is the face and the and her left arm. So hang on, I actually got something here for her. Oh, alright, I just broke selection there for a second. I gotta fix that. There we go. Alright, so here we have a Bingo. So this is like the starting pose for her walk cycle. At least I think it is. Probably not. No, this is probably it. Or actually no, I think it's probably like the frame that I've copied from the prior animation onto here. So this is kind of like a scene to import into the other scene, kind of like a layer, I guess, like a made up layer, like on the spot. So here we have Bingo. She waves. Pretty much, as you can see, like she's not walking at all, which is pretty obvious. So what I do here is I would copy the animation from her head and her right arm, and when she hits this pose right here, I can just go in and paste it. As you can see from this purple line here, this is where the animation is initially pasted. So then, all right, that was a. So yeah, pretty much when it hits that frame, the animation is posted on top of the walk cycle. So it's pretty much just secondary action. And honestly, I think this is part of one of my favorite parts of this scene. Was it my favorite to animate? Actually, yeah, I'd say so. It didn't take too much time. It was pretty simple, and it looks great. Then we come to the star of the show, the main character here, Bluey. She was the hardest to animate, honestly, because you can see here she's like she does the most. There's like the exaggerated "bye, Mister," and kind of just runs off. Again, I'm very fresh into animating selection, let alone these characters. So like, and also I didn't have much reference. I was kind of going based off of feel. I tend to like act out the movements. Sometimes I don't really record it, but I just have to feel it in order to get it. So for Bluey, I kind of just like as you can see, I kind of like color code like some certain poses, and then and kind of just like flows. Yeah, the run cycle is also in action, the saved action. The takeoff was a bit weird because it wouldn't like flow correctly. It's either like a slow takeoff or like a very fast takeoff, and it didn't feel right. So I had to do a lot of messing around, which is why this shot took like a bit of a while. But honestly, despite like the amount of days it took to actually animate this, I'd say I pulled it off, honestly. And then there's Jay over here. Jay, I mean, pretty simple, honestly. With Jay, since he's like the last to respond comparatively. So it was pretty much just a matter of having him react. So he kind of looks at Chili and then looks at Bandit and then waves at Bandit and then sees Bluey being all extra and whatnot, and he kind of just like see ya. That was kind of goofy. That was kind of a goofy way to put it, but it's kind of like a like a extra buy for Bluey, since Bluey has to be extra. He kind of like accentuates that extraness back. I'm not sure if I'm explaining this correctly, but if you know me, then you know me. I'm not good at explaining things. I'm just kind of here to give you an inside look to how all of this works. And pretty much it's the whole shot took like about 2 weeks, honestly. 2 weeks of straight up animating. I think one thing that this shot told me is like pay attention to like focus on the ears and tails later. All right, one thing you want to do is like get the body down, because that's where like the body doesn't have much drag. All right, the core of the body is where all the drag would come from. Like the feet are already grounded, so you don't have to worry about that. The hands, they have a little bit of drag sometimes, but like it only depends on what you're doing. If your arms are flailing, then there's drag. If your arms are kind of like, if your hands are leading with action, then no drag. Tails, the tails in this were actually really hard because I had no idea how the tails work. Because like when a character goes from like say Chili here, from like looking to the right to the left, the tail flips, and if you're not careful and you're not flipping your families correctly, selection doesn't like that. So when you're applying algorithms and whatnot, the or at least like if you're proficient in like Toon Boom or Adobe Animate, like tweening or like you know that kind of thing, like motion keyframes, then it would not look right. It would look all glitchy and confusing and stuff like that. And from there, you have to do like a lot of editing and a lot of fixing, and sometimes you lose like the fluidity of the tail. And pretty much that's where a good majority of like my time was spent when it comes to like each character. I think like I would spend the whole day animating. Look at Bingo over here. I think I spend like a majority of my time. Actually, not a majority of my time. Like I'd say like a day per character, animating the tail. Maybe 2 days too. It was animating tails and the ears. The ears weren't too hard, but like the tails was where like it actually gets you. You gotta make sure it all flows correctly. You gotta make sure like the tail looks good and whatnot. Doesn't look. It's not perfect. I mean, like again, like I said, these are like first attempts and whatnot. But I'd say it gets the job done. Not like that bad, all things considered. And yeah, it's I'd say it's pretty solid animation, tail wise, anyways. So yeah, let's go into like some of the faces here. One thing about the faces is some of them would actually like warp when like a character turns. Of course, it depends on like if I'm paying attention or not. Sometimes the face would warp, sometimes it wouldn't. Sometimes I would just end up forgetting to like I would say forget. Sometimes you don't need like the eyes to warp and change when a character turns. Of course, depending on how fast a turning that is. If it's slow, then it'll probably be a bit more noticeable. Take Bluey here for example. If you look closely, you can see like her nose kind of shifts a bit. Again, not perfect, but it gets the job done. But yeah, I make it work. At least I try to, anyways. But yeah, that's pretty much how this whole shot like was animated. It was animated with vigor, time, and honestly like performance anxiety. Oh, actually no. There's one more thing I want to mention: the shadows. The shadows of the characters are animated on like a whole different actor. Because I figured that like if I put the shadow on if I put like an individual shadow on each character, it would be kind of awkward. I know it doesn't make much sense, but like when it comes to like actors, I think like I have a tendency to like adjust, like to attach some shapes and elements to other shapes and elements. I think it'll be convenient, but then that'll just cause like confusion and whatnot. Okay, I'm not 100% sure. I think the shadow was like last minute. Now that I think about it, I'm not sure why I made it on a different actor. Maybe it would have been easier if I put it on like the same actor. Maybe it wouldn't. I'm not sure. This is behind the scenes. This is like it's not like a testament to my knowledge. I'm not very smart at all. I kind of just do things my own way and then see how it all plays out. But yeah, the shadows are on like their own actor, on its own actor, and I kind of just move it around accordingly. And yeah. Also, a funny thing, characters are off screen here. Let's play the animation. See how the characters look off screen. Oh wait, hold on. Turn off camera view. Yeah, it's gonna take a while to render, isn't it? But yeah, the shadows were pretty easy. Pretty much what all I did was change the sizes whenever needed, and then I would end up copying the x-axis from their hips onto the shadow. Make adjustments wherever needed. And yep, that's definitely behind the scenes for you. They run off into the empty void here. Oh yeah, another thing. Backgrounds are usually like broken up into pieces for post production. But in this case, it's good for making sure the characters are in like a constant space. I don't say constant space, more like a stable ground. No pun intended. That way you can actually get a sense of where they would stand and where they would be and all that stuff. And yeah, it works. That's pretty much it. It just works. So from there we kind of throw it into post-production, and then bada bing bada boom. Actually, let's take a look at a post-production, see how all that looks. All right, so here we are in the post-processing phase of this shot. We have here the fully rendered background, and we have the rim lighting for these characters. I actually did contemplate removing the rim lighting for Monster Mask. I actually ended up rendering two versions, one with the fancy lighting and one without. Granted, of course, the one with the shiny lighting, the fancy lighting, did make the final cut, which is good, all things considered. But of course, now I have a completely boring version that I'm probably never going to use. I mean, I might make that a Patreon exclusive if anyone cares. I don't know. It's about 10,000 frames. I'm not sure if anyone wants that. But here we have the whole shot. And honestly, I now realize why I have the shadows on a separate layer, or a separate level, I guess would be the right way. Because I did end up exporting all these characters individually, because if I didn't, and if they're all on the same level, then the rim lighting would be all weird. It would all mesh together. Because take right here, right? If you look closely, if Chili and Bandit here are on the same layer, then this area of lighting wouldn't exist, and it would all just kind of disappear. So always remember, kids, if you have individual characters you want to have with individual lighting, separate them in your exports. Remember that. Tips with NoID. But yeah, lighting was a bit of a challenge, honestly. I couldn't actually nail it down, mainly because it was always a matter of blending options, when it comes to the inner shadow, which is pretty much just what I use for the inside. I wasn't sure if I wanted the overlay or screen, because screen is really bright and I'm looking for a warmish tone, and overlay does give me that warmish tone, but it feels a bit too saturated. But it's a give and take, I guess. So I ended up using the overlay blending mode for the lighting, and it looks great. But yeah, and it's pretty basic, honestly. So aside from that, let's talk about the background. The background I'm actually really proud of. Oh look, nothing's there. Surprise, surprise. So thing about the background is they're all separate pieces, actually. The foreground is its own piece. The foreground is actually several pieces actually. It's the rocks and the pathway with the banisters here. I think is what they're called. The clouds are its own thing too. If I can figure out which one's which. But yeah, the clouds are grouped together with the hills and the trees or whatever all this is. I never actually managed to pinpoint what it is, but but it is what it is. It's pretty. They were all made in in Photoshop. All these pieces here, except the water and the sun. Water, the sun, the sky, they're all made here. And if you look closely, you can see it all shimmering, which is very pretty. I always thought about zooming in and like cropping it out and making it like my own animated background. The thing is, I have to loop it just right, and it's mainly kind of randomized, I guess. But I'm pretty sure I could just spend some time on it. Excuse me. Sorry. I spend some time on it and make like a looping background. Probably put it on wallpaper engine, something like that. But yeah, that's pretty much all. That's pretty much all I've got actually. All right, nerd, shut up. You're boring me. If you managed to sit through that, thank you. The walk cycles were probably the most fun thing, honestly. Each character took about like a day or two to animate, and it was always satisfying to watch them like loop around during the walk cycle to see how good it looks. And then when I'm looking back at it, it's just like, perfect. I think the only challenge was like the pacing, especially for like Bluey and Bingo. Since they're shorter, they're stubbier, and when they're stubbier, they walk a little faster to keep up with mom and dad. And that raises a bit of issue, especially with Bingo being the stubbiest one. But I managed to make it work in the end. I mean, look at this. And then there's Bluey and Bingo's run cycle. Those were a little bit harder than the walk cycles, not only because I gotta make sure they stay in time, but also because I have to create a transition for them to stop. Which was kind of hard to figure out, but I pulled it off. I'm not gonna lie to you, cell action's really, really nice when it comes to puppet animation. As someone who's like primarily a hand-drawn animator and has experience with rigging and puppet animation, walk cycle is probably like one of the hardest things to do, but cell action actually makes it easy. Now, I don't have any pristine examples of progression, but just look at Bandit really quick. Alright, you see that? Now imagine that for every other character for like 2 to 3 minutes straight. Runtime, that is, not like actually animating. Animating just like about like months at a time. This isn't me trying to suck up to cell action or anything. This is me actually like loving the software. Great work, Andy. With the main family out of the way now, let's talk about the disgusting self-insert. This thing. His name is Jay. Jay was probably the hardest character to rig, mainly because of his mask. I had almost no idea how to actually rig the mask. There wasn't really anything in like a Bluey episode that gives me the slightest hint on what it looks like to wear a mask. So I had to improvise, really. A little bit of constraints here and there, a little bit of locking things into place and all that stuff. I pulled it off. I'm so surprised I did that. I'm not 100% sure how I managed to get my gears turning in a way to make this possible, but I did. And of course, I had to put the rig to the test, so I moved the head around a little bit, did a quick turnaround, make sure everything looks good, and it does. The test was so good that apparently I clocked in about 5,000 likes on my old Twitter account. Everybody was like, this dude really works for Ludo. This dude's trying to get hired for a job. Loser. Alright, animatics. You like animatics, right? It's a lot easier than animating. Just a little less colorful. I've already prematurely released the animatic before, but just for the sake of increasing the length time of this video, I'm gonna put it up here again. Editor NoID bamboozled. There is no animatic here. I'll just put the link in the description. Instead, here's some lost media that was found. My composer, Buzzbane, actually made a jazz version of the Monster Mash scoring. Give it a listen. Holy fuck. But yeah, it is. I got a funny thing here for you. I got a funny story. Ready? Gather around, kiddies. It's story time. So, when I was finishing up Monster Mask, I actually rendered out two versions of Monster Mask. One with the lighting and the fancy stuff that you've all seen, and one without it. Now, I rendered one without the lighting to make it a little bit more true to the Bluey style, because it's very minimalistic when it comes to lighting. It's only like used during like important moments. But throughout my short, it's just used constantly. So yeah, here's a quick side-by-side of lighting and no lighting, A and B. I am really stretching this video's length, aren't I? As of recently, I've not been that big of a Bluey fan anymore. I still love the show, but I'm not as crazy about it as I once was. I think I'm Blueyed out, if that's even a thing. Regardless, this remains to be one of my best work, and I love going back to it and seeing all the work I've put into it, all the blood, sweat, and tears and all that stuff. It's honestly nice to look back at this and see this is what me and my group has created. It's honestly like, I'm still surprised that I animated this. You know, I've talked to a few Bluey animators, and even the CEO of Cell Action was impressed on the quality of the short.
Absolutely, yeah, and I completely appreciate that. I noticed that something you shared recently on LinkedIn, I think it was a fan film for Bluey.
Yeah. Well, someone came to us and they just wanted a license of Cell Action and the training course. We do this quick start course, which allows you to learn the software in about 24 hours of work. And they wanted to learn software and didn't say what they were actually doing on it. So, we sold them the course as usual. Of course, we know exactly how Bluey's made and how it's all rigged and things, and we can't tell people how to do it. But they were asking the right questions, and I could see that they were working out sort of a similar way to the way it was done, and just the quality of it was just really good. They said to us, can we show you what we're doing? And I said, yeah. So they showed us some sample animation, and it was really nice, really well observed. They sort of nailed how the Bluey animators do things in terms of the animation. And yeah, a few weeks ago, they sort of said, yeah, we've finished the film now. Do you want to see it? And said, yeah. And it was that Monster Mask thing, which is on YouTube. And yeah, it was a labour of love on their part, and a lot better than a lot of the other fan stuff that I'd seen for Bluey, where people had used other software to do it and made compromises, and they weren't really they're trying to get the spirit of Bluey, but not trying to actually nail the look of it as closely as this team was. So yeah, it was great, and so I felt that I should sort of tell people about it.
It blows my mind, honestly. Anyways, that's about it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the behind the scenes content, and thank you again for making Monster Mask as popular as it is. I think we're about 700,000 views. Let's try to get it to 1 million, huh? Nah, I'm just joking. I think we've surpassed my expectations for that video. But thank you guys for watching, and I shall see you when I get a job. Probably never. Later. If you watched the whole video and made it all the way to the end, you're the only person that deserves to hear this. I had a video that was cancelled talking about the writing for Monster Mask and how it kind of falls short. It was scrapped, but I'm thinking about bringing that back, honestly. Yeah, maybe stay tuned for that. Maybe like a few weeks to a month from now, who knows. Yeah, bye.